I hope your day is wonderful. We are continuing our study in the book Until I Return, the 12 things that Jesus wants every believer to know. And I just want to make a statement on this book and clarify any problems that might be. This was written by a Church of Christ member. He used to be used to be a youth director. I don't know what he does anymore in the church, but it is, written, like I said, by a Christian, and I use it as an outline to help me with, and I'm reading the book and going through and drawing up my own conclusions. I'm adding a lot of scriptures that I think would go with this. His stories remind me of my own stories, and I'll share at least one today with you. But I don't copy everything that he says and just read it. Some things I do, like the first thing this morning, we're talking about history, was something that he brought up that I will share with you. But I'm strictly using this as just a direction, as a kind of a source material for these 12 lessons, because what I have read of it, I really do like, and thought there would be a good series to present to you on how we as Christians need to live our life, and looking forward to his return. As we look at these scriptures that Jesus did, talking to the disciples, that he was going to leave, but he was going to return, and so that's what they were looking for, and we today are looking for that as well, the day that Jesus will return. We are in the second chapter, words of warning. Last week we looked at stay close to me. Today we're looking at the idea of getting along. Okay, history buffs, here's one for you. Which all-consuming issue nearly divided the Russian Orthodox Church in October of 1917? I'm sure none of us were born back then, so we don't remember it. But it should sound easy, right? This was the time of the Bolshevik Revolution, and I'm sure we've all heard of that, probably forgot what it was about. This historic uprising of the upper class that toppled the czars and planted the seeds of communism. Surely the Russian Orthodox Church was debating capitalism or the divine rights of the kings. They must have been wrestling with the needs of the poor, and how the church could respond to them without overlooking its responsibilities to respect the appointed rulers. It had to be something like that, right? In about 1917, the state church of Mother Russia was engaged in a decisive argument over, get this, the robes. Yes, the robes that the cleric would wear. There was a difference of opinion regarding the type of the robes that the priest would wear. It had to do with the color of the cloth and the design of the stole that would go around the priest's neck. That's what the church was arguing about and fighting about during this time of this revolution. The church had a doozy of a fight over their cleric's clothing, while the rest of the country was shedding blood over freedom and food. Is it any wonder that the church was ineffective in maintaining a powerful Christian witness in the face of communism a few decades later? We're going to continue our reading in John. This morning we're going to look at John 15, verses 9 and 12. Verse 9, as the Father loved me, I also have loved you. Abide in my love. Then dropping down to verse 12. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. We have spent time together in study looking at love in the Bible, and especially the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13. And we'll look at a few scriptures later on in that. But I'm not going to dive into love in detail today. We are going to examine these two ideas that Jesus is wanting us to abide in his love, and that we must love one another as he loved us. This leads us to our subject this morning on how to get along as Christians. how to get along with each other, and how to get along with those outside the church. A clue, it has to deal with love. I'm sure you've heard the old saying that you can't please 100% of the people 100% of the time. And you can't. It doesn't matter where you're at. There's no way to please everybody, no matter what it is. The same is true in the church. Every single one of us have our own opinions, our own ideas, thoughts, and the big one is our own traditions that we have grown used to being in the church. We also want to be heard and our opinions, ideas, and thoughts listened to. When they are not, and we don't get our way, we want to take our Bible and go home. If the Church of Jesus Christ has been given to any one issue through the years, it would have to be with the problem of discord and its related vices. Some people will get their feelings hurt at the drop of a collection plate. And I'm serious. We went to a congregation, I think it was in Oklahoma, and they had done away with the collection plates, whether it was a basket or a gold or silver plate. And they went to something I had never seen before, and it was a circle, about 9 or 10 inch circle, and it had wooden handles on either side, and then it had a green cloth basket, if you will, or whatever underneath it. And so the person walking down would hand you, and you would grab it with the handle, put your collection in it, and then just turn and give the other handle to the person next to you, and they would grab their handle and turn it. And so, it was a neat idea, and it didn't make a lot of noise like you have with the metal plates, the coins rattling around. But I'm sure there were people there who did not like that idea because it was different. It wasn't the traditional round plate that you passed around. I've mentioned this before, that there is a book, I think the Christian Chronicle puts it out, and it's Where the Saints Meet. And it's supposed to be a complete list of all the churches of Christ around the world, so that wherever you travel, you can find where the churches are at to meet with them. Well, in the front of the book, and the last time I had looked at it years ago, there was almost 50, and I want to call them divisions amongst the church. Differences that each church has, whether it is one cup that they use for communion, or several of the little plastic cups, whether they're instrumental music or not, whether it's just all these different things that each church has adapted and use because of traditions or whatever. But that way you can find out if the church you're going to is one that you feel comfortable in visiting. But I call them divisions because, we have problems with the color of the carpet, or what type of flowers get put up, or whether we use pews or single chairs, whether there's a projector, and a screen, because it's something new, something different. I brought up a few weeks ago about the different songbooks, and how that changes, the order of worship, things that are not biblical, but tradition, and it causes problems. And that's what Jesus is saying here, is that we've got to get along. We've got to abide in his love. And we don't do that. Part of our human nature is to get our way. We are okay in giving in from time to time on things that don't really matter or affect us. But when it comes to the church, we stand firm on our beliefs and traditions. Please don't get me wrong. We should stand on the true biblical facts. Okay? Those things we need to stand on and profess. Okay? But sometimes we need to disagree on issues that are not spiritual or eternal issues, like the color of the carpet. Okay? We need to get along and help each other to see eye to eye. Now, I'm not saying that we bulldoze our wants over everybody else just to get our way. We must be able and willing to bend to help each other to reach our goal of heaven. Our oldest child, we found out, was what we called self-willed. Okay? She wanted what she wanted, and somebody in the church gave us James Dobson's from Focus on the Family book on the self-willed child, to help us with that. And let me give you an example. We rented a house in Fort Walton Beach that did not have a dishwasher. And, I didn't want my wife to have to wash dishes by hand, and I didn't want to have to listen to it. And so I ended up buying a dishwasher that was a built-in, built a cabinet around it and everything, and made the connections to where we could just roll it into the kitchen, plug it in, and then she could wash the dishes. Well, the problem was it was when you opened it, because it wasn't in the cabinet like it was designed, it would fall forward. And so I ended up attaching a cement block to the back of it. Well, before I did that, we had it in the dining room, and Tiffany was probably about 2, maybe 3 years old, and she would go up and she would try to open it like Mommy does, and I didn't want it to fall on her. And so I moved her hand. She put her hand back up there. I moved her hand. She put her hand back up there. And I ended up slapping her arm, and slapping her arm, and slapping her arm, and slapping her arm, and she just kept doing it. And her arm was getting all red, and Kathy was getting all mad at me, and so she picked her up and took her back to her room. Okay? Sometimes that's how we are as humans. We want to get our way. And, the same thing when we want to get away, no matter what. That is why Jesus told his disciples on this very special night to love one another as he loved them, as he loves us. That way, that very special love, that unconditional love, there were no strings attached to it. Jesus told them that he was leaving them, but he was going to come back. Okay? Jesus had done all that he could do to prepare them for what was coming. The only thing left to prove to them was in 4 days when he arose from the dead. Then they would know that he truly was the Son of God. Well, we are the same way today. We are waiting for Jesus to come back. We don't know when that is going to be, but he is coming, and we need to be ready. John 17, verses 20 to 22. The other 3 Gospels only record short sections of Jesus' prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane. John dedicates the whole chapter of 17 to that, and I want you to read that on your own. We're going to pick up here in verses 20 and 22, 20 to 22. I do not ask for these only, talking about his disciples, but also for those who will believe in me through their word. So Jesus is not only praying for his disciples, but people who are going to listen to, who they're going to talk to, pray for them. That's us today. Because we are listening to what it is the disciples said later on. So Jesus is praying for us. Verse 21, that they may all be one. Just as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they also may be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. The glory that you have given me, I have given to them, and that they may be one, even as we are one. Why did Jesus say that Christians need to get along? First, Jesus is not asking these things in his prayer just for the disciples, but for all of us who believe in him through the words that they have spoken and that he has spoken. Second, Jesus wants all of us to be one in each other, just as Jesus and his heavenly Father are one. Why? So that all believers will believe that God sent Jesus. And the third reason, Jesus gave us the same glory that God gave him. He wants us to be one with each other, just as he and God are one. This is why Jesus wants us to love each other unconditionally. This is why Jesus wants us to love each other just as he loved us, so that people around us will see this love that imitates the love between God and his Son. so that the world may believe that God sent his only begotten Son. What is the world going to see if all Christians do is fight and bicker and tear the church apart? The world is not going to see the love of Jesus working in us. We must get along and love each other. When we fight and bicker over trivial items, we show the world that our lives have not changed. We show the world that our lives are the same. This is how Jesus changes the world of people who follow him. Doesn't look like any difference than anybody else around. This is why people outside of the church sometimes call Christians hypocrites, because they preach one thing, but they act a different way. Our lack of love for one another cut the legs out from under our evangelism, and we mock the testimony of Jesus. So how do we become people of love? How can we be transformed into authentic community of caring people who speak the word to the world? How can we show that real, true Christian love? The answer is in the words of Jesus the Christ. Jesus did not use the word love lightly. He modified it in an extraordinary way. He told us that we are to love one another as he has loved us. This type of unconditional love did not get its start here on earth. No, humans are too self-centered and too self-absorbed to love unconditionally without a catch. No, that type of unconditional love came from heaven. Going back to verse 9 of John 15, as the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. This love came from the heart of the Creator and flowed freely to his only Son, Jesus. We are Christians. We as Christians are to be able to abide in the love of God, the love of Jesus. We as parents understand this kind of unconditional love for our children. We understand the parent-child devotion. Jesus calls us as a Christian. We are to have no less love for each other than the Father has for his Son. Jesus wasn't done. He raised the bar of this unconditional love. Going back to John 15, verse 12. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Notice that Jesus didn't give us this kind of unconditional love as an option. No, it is a commandment that we love one another as Jesus loved us. Do you remember what Jesus, the Son of God, did to his disciples after the Passover feast? Jesus tied a towel around his waist, poured water into a basin. He got down on the floor and started washing his disciples' feet. He took the role of a servant. You can read this story in John 13. I'm going to pick the story up down in verse 12. When he had washed his feet, their feet, and put on his outer garments and resumed his place, he said to them, "Do you understand what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, and so I am. If I then, your teacher and Lord, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you also should do just as I have done to you. Truly, truly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them." How many times today do we see people in authority or in power doing this kind of servanthood, where they take the servant's role? Now, I'm not talking about like the TV show Undercover Boss, where the owner of the company went undercover into his own business and went in as a newbie to learn about his company, to see how it was working, to see what was going on, so that he could improve his company, okay, and to make it better. No, that's not what this is talking about here. Jesus is talking about actually caring for the people. Okay? He is teaching his disciples how to be like him, how to love him, how to be a servant like him. Blessed are we if we know and understand this kind of love and we imitate Jesus with those around us. We act as a true Christian by having a good relationship with each other. I have mentioned the idea in another sermon about the weakest link. It doesn't matter what a chain is rated at, it is not any stronger than its weakest link. If a link of a chain has been cut, then that link is going to break before the rest of the chain does. God's love was passed down to his son Jesus. Jesus passed that same unconditional love down for us to share with others. We are the weakest link in that chain of unconditional love. We are the ones who can stop it from growing. It is up to us to keep the unconditional love flowing through us. Jesus commanded us to love one another just as he loved us. And I do want to go into 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter, the first 3 verses. If I speak in the tongue of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. I could be the smartest person on this earth. I can have the most faith of anybody around. I could give away everything I owe to the poor and have my body burned to show how powerful and famous I am. But if I do not have God's unconditional love in me, I am nothing but a noisy loudmouth, and I gain nothing. We as Christians have tons of opportunities to show and to share God's love with others. We have just as many opportunities to exercise that unconditional love with others so that we can get along. We don't have to always be right. We don't always have to get our own way. We as Christians can show the love of Jesus by bending and giving just a little when needed. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it is harder for us men to do that. It doesn't show a nick in our armor when we give in. It's easier for women to do that. But as being a servant of God doesn't mean we have to be a tyrant. If there's any way that we can help you this morning, let us know. Next week, Lord willing, we are going to look at the third part of the second chapter, which is to do as you are told. We all need to get along as best we can. Did Jesus get along with everybody he encountered? No, he did not. The Jews didn't like him from the beginning, and they worked on how to get rid of him. And as we know, the next day he's going to be arrested this night, and then the next day he's going to be crucified because of who he was. But did that affect his teachings? Did that affect who he was? Did that affect his unconditional love for everybody? No, it didn't. And the things that we encounter every day, all the ups and downs that we have in our life, should not discourage us from showing God's unconditional love to everybody that we come in contact with, and especially with our family here. If there's any way that we can help you this morning, please let your wishes be known as to